A federal district court judge issued a preliminary injunction against official guidance from the Department of Education and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission on Title IX and the Civil Rights Act. The guidance said, quote, OCR will open an investigation of allegations that an individual has been discriminated against because of their sexual orientation or gender identity in education programs or activities. This includes allegations of individuals being harassed, disciplined in a discriminatory manner, excluded from, denied equal access to, or subjected to sex stereotyping in academic or extracurricular opportunities. If the guidance were to stand, the plaintiffs say it would require schools subject to Title IX to allow males who identify as females to participate in female athletic teams and use female-designated showers and locker rooms. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich was one of the 20 attorneys general who successfully obtained that preliminary injunction, and he joins us now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
So one of the things that you and the group of attorneys general argued was that this type of guidance should not be done at the federal level. It should be done at the state and local level. Why is this a state and local issue?
Well, first and foremost, we have to recognize that the federal government was designed to have limited powers, and it was the states that created the federal government. The federal government didn't create the states, where the states are the proverbial 50 laboratories of democracy, as Justice Brandeis once described them. So when it comes to issues, especially issues of, public health, education, those were policy decisions that were meant to be left to the states, because what happens in Manhattan, Kansas may be different than Manhattan, New York, and even Manhattan Beach, California. So that's what federalism is all about. But what is especially troubling is where you have the Biden administration trying to impose this top-down approach and basically involve themselves in every local school board with a top-down policy that says that if you don't obey the federal government, that you somehow are involved in discrimination. And myself and my colleagues believe very strongly that not only is education supposed to be left at the local level, but furthermore, there's something inherently wrong when you have someone that identifies, if you have a boy that identifies as a female, under the Biden administration, that individual would be not only allowed to compete against females in athletics, which we think is an unfair advantage, but she would, however they identify, would also be able to use a woman's locker room and use a woman's shower. And I will tell you, as someone, as the parent of daughters, I think that's really troubling and upsetting to a lot of folks.
Now, for purpose of this conversation, let's look forward and say that these rules survive a court challenge and are ultimately finalized. How could that impact Arizona's ability to set new rules themselves? Or let's say Arizona wants to continue doing some type of other rules. In what way could Arizona potentially be punished for that? And how could that impact Arizona's ability to run its colleges and schools?
Well, this is the bigger problem is that we are seeing the federalization of every single problem now in this country. And, there was a time not that long ago when eliminating the Federal Department of Education was part of the Republican Party platform, because there was a recognition that as the federal government gets bigger and bigger and out of touch, you have less accountability, and parents don't have as much input into how their schools are being run. And so, Lyndon Johnson used to say that if you let a bull in your front yard, the next day he's on your porch, and the day after that he's shacking up with your wife. And LBJ used another term for that. But the point is that whether it's at the local level or the state level, once you cede that authority to the federal government, you are not going to get it back. And then you end up with a government that's less accountable, that's more bureaucratic, and quite frankly, is not very efficient.
Now, guidance like this from the federal government often goes completely one way or the other, depending on whether or not it's a liberal administration or a conservative administration. But what do you think is a potential middle ground here that lets states make their own decisions, but at the same time allows people who have a gender identity that is different than their birth gender compete and use locker rooms in a way that makes them feel comfortable?
Look, we don't want anyone discriminated against, but we also don't want anyone to have an unfair advantage. And we don't want our, sons and daughters to feel uncomfortable when they're in a middle school locker room or bathroom. And so, I think there are policymakers that can make decisions as far as, having, maybe a unisex bathroom or requiring, someone to use the shower, where, that matches their biological identity. But at the end of the day, I think the more fundamental problem, to someone that's, been fighting against the overreach of the Biden administration, and before that, the overreach of the Obama administration, is I think we all need to recognize that these are issues that should be left up to local school boards and parents that are directly impacted, and not some unelected bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Education, and surely not President Biden.